Welcome from that break. The show is Good Morning Abuja, and hey, we made it to 2023. Just like play, today is already the third day in 2023. Isn't God gracious? Of course he is. Now I'm so excited because I have a sister in the studio here. She is a writer and a journalist. I'm sure you now understand my joy here in the studio. All right, I have Aisha Kabir Muhammed. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, it's good to have you. And we'll be discussing how to achieve our goals in year 2023. You know that once it's that time of the new year, we all set goals. We have resolutions. Is that necessary?
Yes, it's very necessary. In fact, it's one of the few things that that allow you to pursue your dreams and to pursue your aspirations in the new year.
Okay. So most of the times people set goals and make resolutions. There should be a difference somehow among these two.
Yes, there's a difference. For resolutions are more like decisions that you make.
Okay.
So in the beginning of the new year, you say, okay, this year I want to lose weight. I want to go to the gym every day. That is a resolution.
Okay.
But goals are more practical. They are more realistic, and they are sort of a thing that you want to achieve by the end of the year. It's more like a end goal for you for the year. So instead of where a resolution is, I want to go to the gym, a goal is more like this year, by the end of this year, I will lose so amount of weight. Okay. So if you notice the difference here is, okay, resolution is a decision, while a goal is more like something you want to achieve by the end of the year.
If you notice, you would see that people most often do not even know the difference, and not knowing the difference, we kind of just think, oh, they all go together, so they can all be in the same basket or whatever it is.
But they're not.
Okay, but why really? You actually spoke about it, but I want you to speak more. Why really do we set this? Why is it important to set goals for the year?
Like I said, setting goals allows you to achieve your dreams. It's also a way for you to hold yourself accountable.
Okay.
Like we said now, that resolutions are different from goals. So resolutions, you are trying to make a decision that you want to change your life, you want to do certain things and make new habits in the new year. But these goals are what will hold you accountable. So you use these goals to track yourself. It's also a sort of for if you want to take yourself, or you want to look at yourself as sort of like a business, or like in our workplaces we have things like KPIs, that's key performance indicators. So your goals are your KPIs. They tell you if you are on the right track, whether those resolutions that you made at the beginning of the year, whether you're following them or whether you're maybe backsliding, or you're going against those resolutions that you've made.
Okay. So I now understand setting goals is important, is key for us to, keep track of whatever it is we're doing. But for other people, we just talk, oh, okay, this year I want to do this year. But shouldn't there be a proper way of setting goals?
Yes. So when you want to make your goals, the best way, in fact, research has shown it that the best way for you to make your achieve your goals, or to take it seriously, is to write them down. So if you want to actually achieve those things in the new year, you write it down, maybe on a piece of paper or on your phone or your laptop, anywhere. So when you write those things down, it's easier and it's more effective when you write them down, so you can easily achieve them. When you think of these things, it's easy for you to forget. So, but when you write it down, there's always that reference that, okay, you can even just stumble on it one day and say, okay, I wrote these things down. Am I actually achieving them? But when you have it in your head, it's more like it's still a dream. But when it's on paper, you can easily go back to it and you can look at it like, okay, this is my plan. It now becomes a plan. It now becomes a blueprint. There's also another thing that people do. It's like setting goals, but then it's more with a positive attitude. So you do these things called manifestations. Okay. So you write down your goals, but then you write it down as if they have already happened. Okay. So instead of saying, I want to lose weight, if you want to do that in the new year, you say, I lost so amount of weight in 2023, instead of saying this is what I want to do. So this would help you to envision it. It would help you to have a positive mindset, because you're talking as if it's already happening. You're like speaking with faith that, okay, this has already happened. So that's another way to achieve or to actually make your goals more practical. Another thing is making your goals, there's this thing called SMART goals.
Okay.
So SMART stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. So when you're making your goals, like I said, if you're going to refer to yourself or look at yourself as someone, maybe you're in a workplace, or you can look at yourself as a company, for instance.
Okay.
So when you make things like SMART goals, they become more achievable. So it's kind of like you're setting milestones for yourself. So you, instead of giving a vague description of what your goals are, you now make them more specific.
Okay.
That's the first word. You make it specific.
Okay.
For instance, you maybe if someone wants to save an amount of money, say maybe by February you want to save about like 300,000 naira, or maybe you want to save about 500,000 naira for the new year. So instead of saying I want to save money, you write down I want to save 500,000 naira by March of 2023.
So you're specific.
About it, and then it's measurable. It's an amount of money that you know. So like whenever you're making your finances or you're making your financial decisions, you know that, okay, I have this goal. I said I was going to save 500,000. You start setting that amount of money aside. It's also realistic, because of course everybody's reality is different, but if you ask yourself, is this something I can achieve, then you'd make it in tune to your own reality. So some people, 500,000 is not realistic. It could be 20,000, it could be 40,000. So you just make sure it's something that's realistic, because when you make it, although you have to find a balance, you have to ask yourself, okay, is this something that, it has to be realistic, of course, but then don't sell yourself short. Have faith in yourself as well. You can also dream big. So find a balance and make it realistic. And then that time, adding that time to your goals is very important, because when you say during this new year you do something, it's like it's just there. There's no real the goals just become, it's not like you're making those resolutions again. They don't become strong again. So it's like you're giving yourself a deadline. Okay, so by so time I'm going to do this. So that time now reflects in your head whenever you're making your decisions, and they guide you.
Okay. You know, one thing about making goals, we try to achieve them, yes, but sometimes situations happen, life happens, and you are not able to achieve the things you had earlier written or said you would achieve. In such situations, what should one do not to be shaken off and, discouraged?
Of course, like I said, you have to ask yourself, what is your own reality? You have to make these things realistic and practical.
Okay.
So you have to ask yourself, is this goal that I have, is this something that I can actually do? And like I said, you don't just, you do it in a way that you're not also selling yourself short. You're not telling yourself that, okay, I cannot do this. You have to find a way to balance it out. So you ask yourself, this thing I want to achieve, do I have the potential to achieve it? And when you realize, or when you could seek advice from your friends, family, co-workers, anybody that knows you a lot. So these people would be the ones to encourage you and push you to achieve these goals. So when you make sure that these things are practical, even when you don't achieve the goals, you know that, okay, you had that vision, and you had that potential to reach and to achieve all these things, and you have confirmed it. So whenever you set goals are just a way to guide us, like I said, and to hold ourselves accountable. So if you don't get them immediately, or if you don't get them at the time that you specified for yourself, it just means that you need to grow more. You can always repeat it. It's not as if, even though you've given yourself that deadline or that time that you want to achieve these things, it's not as if when that time elapses, you cannot continue. You can always shift it and push it to the next year. And of course, when you make sure that you take the right decisions to achieve these goals, of course, you will definitely get to it. Even if you do not achieve it, you would find that you have reached halfway. So whenever you set goals for yourself and you don't achieve it, don't just be discouraged, because it's just a guide for you. So you don't have to always you don't have to just feel so discouraged when it happens, because these things can easily be readjusted.
Okay.
You can easily rearrange it to suit your environment or your situation at the time, because sometimes when you make these goals, you might have even outgrown them. Sometimes you might even notice that, okay, this thing that you want for yourself, it's not even what good. Yes, it's not even, it's either it's not good or it's not what you actually need to achieve at that particular time, or okay. you've even outgrown it, but you don't know yet. You just want to achieve this thing, but maybe it's in a certain area or certain thing that you want in your life, and you have outgrown that thing, but you still haven't noticed. Maybe you have achieved more, but you haven't noticed that you've achieved more than that goal. So whenever goals are just guides, of course, so it shouldn't make anybody sad or maybe depressed because you didn't achieve them at the time that you set them.
Okay. All you said is is about planning and re-strategizing to become better. Now let's digress a little and talk about you. I know you are a writer.
Yes.
Tell us about writing.
Okay. Well,
what qualities do I have to possess to be a writer?
Okay, to be a writer, you have to have a keen eye. You have to be able to find stories in anything that you see yourself in. You have to always ask those difficult questions that people do not want to ask. So whenever you go out into the world, the things that everybody else will not see are the things that writers would see, are the things that writers would point out and would note down. To be a writer, you have to be a very meticulous person.
Okay.
You have to pay attention to detail a lot, because writing is all about the details. When you want to create things like imagery, when you want to make sure that your story is a good story, of course you have to pay attention to the details, because details is what make the bigger picture look even better. So when you have good details, of course the bigger picture would look better.
Beautiful.
Yes. So you also have to read a lot.
Okay.
There's no way you can be a writer and you don't read. It's not possible, because everything that you want to use to improve your skills, because writing is a skill.
Yes.
Everything you want to use to improve your skill, you find them in books. If you want to tell a story in a specific style, you have to go and look for that particular book that is written in that style.
Okay.
Even if you feel like whatever you're writing isn't that important or isn't that noticeable, you have to look for those people that write what you write, and then you read them. And it's also a good way to get inspiration when you read other people's works, when you see what other people have done, and it helps you to those details I was talking about. You get to pay attention to it better when you read other people's stories. So you see how they've written it out, and you see how they do it, and you also imbibe it in your own writing.
Okay.
So those are the things that you need to.
It's lovely just listening to you talk about your passion. All right, so let's go back to our topic now as we round up. Your advice to people on goal setting, because a lot of goals were still in January, just the third day apparently. A lot of people are going to set goals, and life is going to happen, and some people won't get to their expectations and goals. Sure. Just give us a general advice, on what to do when we don't get to those goals.
Okay. Another thing I noticed with goal setting is that having an accountability partner helps as well.
Okay.
When you have somebody that has the same goals with you, that helps you to evaluate your goals and track your progress, that accountability partner would encourage you and would give you the drive. So whenever you don't reach those goals and those milestones that you set for yourself, that accountability partner would also be there to help out.
Okay.
Of course, some people might not like to have someone to help them. So you just have to find your internal motivation from yourself as well.
Okay.
You have to ask yourself that this goal that I'm setting, if I do not achieve it, you also have to tell yourself when you're setting these goals that you might not achieve these goals. So you have to tell yourself that, are you going to let it bring you down, or are you going to let it push you forward? Because having these goals, like I said, is just a way for you to hold yourself accountable. So when you don't achieve them, you ask yourself, this goal now, have I, even though I have not achieved it, have I held myself accountable? Has setting this goal helped me in any way? You always look for the bright side. That's why the main thing about goal setting is for you to even have a positive attitude.
Okay.
So whenever these things don't happen, always look for the brighter side. Then you can always make more goals. It's not going to end like it being the end of the year doesn't mean that it's the end of your goals or your achievements.
Okay. Thank you for your thoughts and your time on
Thank
Good
you.
Morning Abuja.
Thank you so much for having me.
It was nice having you. And you know the part I enjoyed when you spoke about everything you said was valid. But when you spoke about your passion, writing, I could see, you know, lights emanating from. Nice having you.
Thank you.
All right. So we have been conversing with Aisha Kabir Muhammed. She's a writer and a journalist.